Jalyx Hunt, edge defender from Houston Christian, formerly known as Houston Baptist. This is probably the most controversial pick of the Philadelphia Eagles from the 2024 draft class. I've had people tell me everything from this young man is going to be a version of Trent Cole that can play in space to this young man will never see the field and is a tremendous reach by the Philadelphia Eagles in the third round. With that said, we must go back and visit the path that has led us to Jalyx Hunt here in Philadelphia, which began with a decision that was made inside of the second round to forego players such as Marshawn Kneeland and Chris Braswell, which went 56 and 57-ish inside of the NFL draft, to leverage picks number 50 and 53 for the Eagles and pick number 161 in exchange with Washington to get their picks 40, 78, and 152. Very fair compensation, actually, for both teams. Very reasonable. But from this, what we see here is that the Philadelphia Eagles prioritized the secondary over the pass rush by making this decision not to take Braswell or not to take Kneeland, and instead kind of do what we all expected, which was to trade up and then down inside of this draft. They traded upward to 40 and then downward into 78. But that's where it gets really interesting, guys, is when we get to pick 78. When we get to pick 78, we ended up finding out that Braylon Trice would come off the board at 74, and then Jonah Ellis would come off of the board at pick number 76. So, once again, we found Howie Roseman accumulating picks and trading pick number 78 in exchange for pick number 86 and 123. At pick 86, we would once again make another trade to leverage more picks for the following season. And we would gain picks number 94 in 132, which would begin a sequence of events that would occur that would either elate Eagle fans with the way that we were able to leverage this draft or highly irritate them with the fact that we took such a developmental prospect at 94, because at pick number 93, Penn State's own Adisa Isaac came off the board, leaving the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Jalyx Hunt. The pick of Jalyx Hunt has really put one thing at the forefront here, which is a value proposition. I think most people here would not be really that angry if this player was taken a round or two later. So this leads us into a conversation of allocation of resources and whether or not Howie was right to gain future picks and future, drafts, and then take this player who's a developmental player over guys that many people perceive, not known yet, guys, we perceive to be more impactful players from year one, whether or not they turn out to have the higher ceiling ultimately than this player. With that said, there's a couple things in evaluation here. Number one, is Howie Roseman right? Number two, can Jeremiah Washburn and can Clint Hurt, the defensive line coach and the edge coach, can these guys coach these dudes up? Are we going to see a development out of Nolan Smith, out of Jalyx Hunt? Are we going to see these younger guys produce under these coaches? But I think the third thing and the most important thing, the thing that actually has real consequence here is, this is really about Jalyx Hunt. Jalyx Hunt's the guy who can make all this right. He can make this risk on this pick seem like a genius move to, then also get future capital on the back end of everything, right? He can make Howie Roseman seem like a genius, right? He can make Jeremiah Washburn look like one of these up-and-coming coaches in the league, right? He can make Clint Hurt's reputation even more solidified as a dude that just knows how to develop talent. He's the guy, though. He's the guy that's got to make these picks right or wrong. When evaluating a guy like Jalyx Hunt, I'll admit this is kind of difficult when you're dealing with this type of small school because the level of competition is going to be really tough. In addition to this, we got a guy who grew into his body, converted out of a safety role into an edge player. There's a lot of confounding variables here that you have to put into place. So, me personally, I like to just go back to my ABCs or fundamentals when I'm scouting this type of player. There's three things I like to consider at the edge: the size and the length of the player, the speed and agility of this player, and their power and strength levels. Now, when I'm looking at size and length, guys, I'm talking about their ability to create separation from the O-lineman, right? That length, that ability to keep their bodies, kind of in a range that helps them maintain leverage, right? Can they be disruptive to the throwing motion with that size, right? Also, can they maintain gap control in the run game with that size and that length? And can they set an edge with that size and length? When I look at speed and agility, I'm looking at, are they fast enough to affect throws, right? Are they twitchy? Show me that 10, show me that 10 split. Are they agile enough to beat offensive tackles and offensive linemen? that kind of speaks to this idea of can you bend the edge and can you flatten back towards the quarterback? What can you show me here, right? Can you change direction? Can you bend the edge? Are you explosive off the line of scrimmage? When it gets to power and strength, for me, that's an easy one. I'm just simply trying to judge the violence in the hands. Yeah, sure. I mean, you can look at something like the bench press to get an idea if a dude's just genuinely strong. But I do think that film is more dependable than testing in this one in particular, because what I need to know from this is, hey, when I watch this young man's hands, do they hit heavy? How good is his hand placement? And everything has a factor here, right? We can talk about speed and agility. You could be a really agile person, but if you fail to have proper technique, you're going to take too many steps, which is going to affect your time. So you're not going to come up well on agility drills, right? We can talk about size and length. Yeah, of course that's important to be able to affect the throw and to be able to actually, anchor yourself in terms of being able to play the run correctly. However, you still have to have proper hand placement and technique there. And we can talk about power and strength. Hey, it's good to be just naturally athletic and naturally strong. You still have to have proper hand placement. And that's the things that I'm looking at here. When I review the film on Jalyx Hunt and I look at his underlying testing data and his underlying measurables, what I see here simply put is he's 6'4", guy that just measured in just short of 6'4", and 250 pounds plus, right? Over 34 inches in the arm reach and over an 82-inch wingspan, right? A very long and rangy type of player at the edge position. When it comes to his testing, yeah, he put up a 4.64 40. I'm not as interested in full 40 times as I am as what the splits tell you. In a 1.610 split, combined with a 37.5-inch vertical and 128 broad jump, tells me this guy's got the underlying athleticism to be quite twitchy off the edge. Power and explosion there in terms of what he can do from the lower half. And then you just look at his agility testing numbers and like what he put up there. You look at the 3-cone, a 7.18 in the 3-cone. It's a very agile player, guys. And then you look at something like his short shuttle, what they call the 20-yard shuttle or the short shuttle. He put up a 4.38, which is a decent number. When I look at this young man overall, it wasn't a surprise to me that the Philadelphia Eagles had interest because I saw the testing numbers and then I saw what the film showed in terms of, look, no matter what you think about this guy, when you turn on the film, it ain't hard to see how he fits in Fangio's scheme. This guy fits this idea of creepers mixed in with whip and then fire zone replacement blitzes. It's very easy to see how this guy can work in space with that safety background and why they might be high on him as a guy that you can project or essentially develop into being potentially an absolute wrecking crew as a situational pass rusher. We've discussed the finer details behind analytics when it comes to the measurables, the size. We've talked about the finer details when it comes to analytics behind the testing numbers, the 10 splits, the broad jumps, the verticals, all those type of things, right? Now we want to talk about the advanced analytics behind situational play. And that's going to come in the form of things such as like your true pass rush sets, so your TPSs, true pass rushes, things like that you can kind of track and monitor. And basically what that means, when they talk about true pass rush guys, they're just monitoring things out like play action and then also like RPOs, right? They want you in a true pass, rush situation to grade you by, okay? Generally speaking, the marker there is 1 to 2% increase from your normal pressure rate. So if you go look at just pressure rate and you look at the true pressure rate, there should be a 1 to 2% increase. With Jalyx Hunt, it goes from 10.1 to 12.5%. So we're talking about a 2.4% increase, which is kind of, right on the head. Hits the nail right on the head, if you will. Some of the other things that they look for in terms of this is, look, this guy was top 10 in this draft class in terms of third down, pressure rate. So what you can do on third down, filtering further by the down, more natural pass rush situation normally. Guy had 25% pressure rate on third down. Last but not least, and this is something that I'm going to share with you, but I don't have the intel on it, guys, because you have to get this from Sports Info Solutions. I used to have a subscription to them. They're really expensive, guys. Or you can go to AWS, which is Amazon's version that works with next-gen stats. You got to go to one of those two to kind of figure out a workaround for this. But what you're looking for, and what I'm referring to here, guys, is you want to know basically the time to rush. And when you say time to rush, I'm not talking about like how they judge quarterbacks. We're talking about the quick pressure rate. So quick pressure rate means how often you get to the quarterback in 2.5 seconds or less, which is a pretty dang good indicator that this isn't a guy holding the ball too long. This isn't a result of coverage. This is you just absolutely beating your guy. So I don't have that information handy. You have to go to like Sports Info Solutions or somewhere like that to grab that intel. All right, guys. This is the info I have on Jalyx Hunt. Leave your comments down below. I appreciate y'all. And don't forget, guys, I always have videos up here And if you're new to my channel, you want to subscribe, you can subscribe over there. All right, guys, I'm out of here.